Listen, I have been a combat instructor for the Galactic Defense Coalition for 43 cycles. 43 cycles. I have trained warriors from over 200 species. I have seen claws that could slice through reinforced steel, mandibles that could crush bone into powder, and poison glands that could drop a Thorian battle beast in under 5 seconds. I thought I had seen everything the universe had to offer in terms of biological weaponry and combat prowess. Then the humans showed up. The day started normally enough. Well, as normal as it gets when you are about to introduce a new species to level 4 combat training, which is basically the point where we separate the actual soldiers from the ones who should probably stick to data entry. My name is Varkoth, by the way, and I run the toughest combat program in this sector. My reputation is built on breaking down overconfident recruits and rebuilding them into something useful. So there I was, standing in Training Bay 7, watching this human amble in like he was walking into a cafeteria, instead of a facility where people regularly leave on stretchers. His name was Marcus Penn, according to his file. Average height for a human, which meant he was shorter than me by at least a head. No visible natural weapons. No armor plating. No venomous anything. Just soft, pinkish skin and this weird, relaxed posture that suggested he was either supremely confident, or supremely stupid. Probably stupid, I figured. You are late, I said, letting my voice carry that edge I had perfected over the years. The kind of edge that made most species instinctively check their exits. Marcus just shrugged. Yeah, sorry about that. The gravity in the dormitory section is different, and I could not figure out the shower controls. Ended up getting blasted with something that smelled like fermented Gleck fruit. Is that normal? I stared at him. This is a military facility. Your comfort is irrelevant. Right. Got it. No more shower complaints. He smiled. Actually smiled. The audacity. I activated the training simulation with a flick of my wrist. The bay transformed instantly, holographic projections creating a hostile environment, rocky terrain, limited visibility, and 3-level adversaries that would attack on sight. Standard stuff for beginners. Your objective is simple, I explained, pulling up my data pad to record his inevitable failure. Survive for 10 minutes using standard combat techniques. You may use any of the training weapons on the rack. Begin when ready. Marcus walked over to the weapon rack, examined it for roughly 3 seconds, and picked up a standard plasma rifle. Not a terrible choice, actually. Then he looked back at me. So, 10 minutes of not dying. That is the whole thing. That is the whole thing. Cool. He checked the rifle charge, nodded to himself, and stepped into the simulation zone. I will give him this much. He lasted longer than I expected. About 45 seconds longer, to be precise. The first simulated attacker, a holographic Crexan warrior with blades for arms, came at him from the right. Marcus fired twice, missed both shots, and then did something I had never seen before. He threw the rifle at it, not like a weapon. Like a frustrated child throwing a toy. The rifle passed harmlessly through the hologram, obviously, and clattered against the far wall. The Crexan simulation registered a kill strike against Marcus, and the whole thing shut down with a sad little beep that basically translated to "You died poorly." I stood there, data pad in hand, trying to process what I had just witnessed. Marcus walked back over, rubbing his shoulder. Okay, so throwing stuff does not work on holograms. Good to know. That going to count against me. You survived for 12 seconds. Hey, you said 10 minutes was the goal. I am just establishing a baseline here. I reset the simulation. Again. This time, he lasted 19 seconds, before getting virtually decapitated by a Thorian shock blade. The time after that, 8 seconds, which I honestly think might be a record for fastest failure. He kept trying different weapons, different tactics, and failing spectacularly every single time. By the 7th attempt, I was beginning to wonder if humans had somehow convinced the coalition they were sentient by accident. Then something changed. On his 8th run, Marcus did not immediately grab a weapon. Instead, he studied the simulation spawn points, watched how the attackers moved, and when the first one appeared, he simply was not there anymore. He had rolled behind a simulated boulder, waited for the attacker to pass, and then struck from behind with a training blade. Clean, efficient, brutal. He lasted 4 minutes that round. By his 12th attempt, he cleared the entire simulation, with 30 seconds to spare. I lowered my data pad slowly. Explain. Marcus wiped simulated blood off his face, even though it was just light projection. Explain what? You went from combat incompetent to simulation clear in under an hour. That is not normal learning progression. He laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, that. Yeah, I was just getting a feel for how the system works. See, back home, my kid is 3 years old. 3. Do you know what 3-year-olds are like? I do not care about your offspring. Right, well, you should. Because my daughter fights harder than your simulations. Every morning is a battle to get her dressed. She has headbutted me in the nose twice this month. Last week, she figured out how to open the safety locks on the cabinets and declared war on bedtime. I have been training against an unpredictable, fearless opponent who knows no mercy and feels no pain for 3 years straight. I just stared at him. Your simulation runs patterns, Marcus continued, gesturing at the training bay. Once I figured out the patterns, it was easy. My kid does not have patterns. She has chaos theory with sticky hands. So, respectfully, this is kind of a vacation compared to Tuesday mornings at my house. Before I could respond, the bay doors opened. 3 more recruits entered, 2 Velthari warriors and a Quellan scout, all seasoned fighters with multiple combat certifications. They saw Marcus standing there, covered in simulation residue, and one of the Velthari made a clicking sound that roughly translated to weak species. Instructor Varkoth, the Velthari said in perfectly accented Coalition standard. We were told to report for level 4 training. Is this human part of the instruction, or do we need to work around him? I felt my dorsal ridge flatten, which is basically how my species shows extreme irritation. Marcus Penn has just completed the level 4 baseline simulation. Perhaps you would like to demonstrate your own abilities. The 3 of them exchanged glances. Then they laughed. Well, the Velthari clicked, the Quellan made a high-pitched chirping sound, and the general vibe was definitely mockery. Sure, one of them said. We will show the human how real warriors operate. I reset the simulation to level 5. Because I am petty, and I wanted to see the look on Marcus's face, when actual trained fighters demolished a scenario that would have killed him 30 times over an hour ago, the 3 recruits entered the simulation zone with textbook precision, weapons ready, formations tight. They lasted 6 minutes, before the simulation overwhelmed them with a Crexan heavy assault squad. Respectable, really. Exactly what I expected from their skill level. When it ended, they emerged looking satisfied with themselves. Marcus was sitting on a supply crate, eating something from a ration pack. Not bad. You almost had that last guy. The Quellan scout turned to face him, compound eyes glittering with hostility. You believe you could perform better, soft skin? Oh, absolutely not, Marcus said cheerfully. I would die horribly in that scenario. But you know what? I would throw a rifle at something first, just to establish dominance. And that is when I realized something terrifying. The human was not stupid. He was playing with us. The Quellan scout took a step toward Marcus, mandibles clicking in what I recognized as a pre-combat threat display. Great. Just great. Because what I needed today was an interspecies incident in my training bay before lunch cycle. You mock us, human. The Quellan hissed, compound eyes literally vibrating with anger. Perhaps you need a demonstration of real combat ability, not simulation games. Marcus looked up from his ration pack, chewed thoughtfully, and swallowed. Dude, I am eating synthetic cheese that tastes like rubber mixed with sadness. Trust me, I am not in the mood to mock anyone. I am just trying to get through today without another shower incident. Enough, I barked, stepping between them. Recruit Penn, report to Medical Bay 3 for your physical evaluation. The rest of you, prepare for advanced weapons training. Marcus shrugged, tossed the empty ration pack into a disposal unit, and headed for the exit. As soon as the doors closed behind him, the 2 Velthari warriors turned to me with expressions that roughly translated to, "Are you serious right now?" Instructor, one of them said, her crest feathers rising in confusion. That human cleared level 4 on his 12th attempt. That is either extraordinary talent, or extraordinary luck. Yet you send him away. I send him away, because I need to access his full file, I replied, already pulling up my command console. Something about him does not add up. And that, my friends, is when things got really interesting. Marcus Penn's file was not just classified. It was double encrypted with Coalition intelligence markers, which meant someone very high up the command chain did not want casual instructors like me knowing his background. Naturally, I used my override codes. Because 43 cycles of service earns you certain privileges, like the ability to be spectacularly nosy when weird humans show up in your training bay. What I found made my blood sacs constrict. Marcus Penn was not a standard recruit. He was a veteran. 17 years of active combat duty in human military forces before joining the Coalition. Specialized in asymmetric warfare, hostage extraction, and something called urban pacification, which sounded ominous and probably was. He had more combat citations than my entire current class combined. 3 commendations for valor, 2 for tactical innovation, and 1 incident report that was so heavily redacted I could only read every 5th word, but those words included unauthorized, explosive, and apology pending. The human had been playing dumb. No, worse than that. He had been playing strategically dumb, watching how we operated, learning our assessment methods, and probably laughing internally the entire time. The rifle throw was not incompetence. It was theater. He wanted to see how the simulation responded to unconventional tactics. I pulled up the security footage from his training session and watched it again, this time looking for details I had missed. There. In his third attempt, he deliberately positioned himself to draw enemy fire toward a structural weak point in the holographic environment. In his fifth attempt, he tested whether the simulation had friendly fire protocols. By his eighth attempt, he was not just surviving. He was experimenting. The human had turned my combat assessment into his personal research project. I closed the file, powered down my console, and sat there for approximately 30 seconds contemplating my life choices. Then I activated the facility-wide communication system. Recruit Penn, return to Training Bay 7 immediately. He showed up 4 minutes later, still looking completely relaxed, like a man without a care in the known universe. What is up? Medical Bay 3 was closed, by the way. Sign said something about contamination protocols. Sit down. Is this going to be one of those intense conversations where you tell me I have potential, but need to apply myself? Because my high school guidance counselor already did that, and it did not really stick. Sit down. Saturday, I activated my data pad and turned it toward him, displaying his actual service record. His expression did not change much, but I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Recognition. So, I said slowly. 17 years of combat experience. Multiple classifications in advanced warfare. Tactical honors from 3 separate human military branches. Would you like to explain why you pretended to be incompetent in my training bay? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. Look, Varkoth, it is complicated. Uncomplicate it. I am here because the Coalition wanted experienced human soldiers to integrate with alien forces, right? To prove that humans can work alongside other species, share tactics, all that diplomatic stuff. He leaned back in his chair. But here is the thing. Every time humans show up somewhere new, we get one of 2 reactions. Either people think we are weak, because we do not have natural armor or claws or whatever, or they think we are dangerous, because we are crazy aggressive primates, who figured out spaceflight somehow. And your solution was to act incompetent. My solution was to not make everyone immediately defensive, Marcus corrected. I have been doing this long enough to know that if I walked in here and cleared your simulation on the first try, your other recruits would have spent the entire training cycle either trying to prove they are better than me, or avoiding me completely. Neither option builds unit cohesion. I processed this. So the rifle throw. Pure comedy gold, admit it. You deliberately failed 12 times. 11 times, Marcus corrected. The first one was genuine. I really did not know holograms do not have physical mass. But yeah, after that, I was seeing how your system works. How you assess people. What you consider success. He met my eyes directly. You run a good program, instructor. I wanted to understand it before I participated fully in it. There was a long pause. Outside the training bay, I could hear the other recruits running conditioning drills, the rhythmic sound of combat boots on reinforced flooring. You realize, I said finally, that I could report this. Deception during training evaluation is grounds for dismissal. You could, Marcus agreed. But you are not going to. And why is that? Because you are curious. He smiled slightly. You have been training alien warriors for 43 cycles. You have seen every biological advantage the galaxy has to offer. But humans? We are new. We are different. And deep down, you want to know what we actually bring to the table when we stop messing around. He was right. I hated that he was right, but he was absolutely right. I deactivated my data pad. Tomorrow morning, Training Bay 7, 0600 hours. Level 8 combat simulation. Full difficulty. No handicaps. No comedy routines. You will demonstrate actual human combat methodology to the entire recruit class. Level 8. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That is the one where the simulation can actually hurt you, right? Pain motivates learning. Fair enough. He stood up. Can I bring props? What kind of props? Just some personal items. Nothing dangerous. Well, nothing officially classified as dangerous. Trust me, it will make sense. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The next morning, Marcus showed up carrying a small bag that clinked suspiciously when he walked. The entire recruit class was assembled, roughly 30 warriors from a dozen different species, all watching with varying degrees of skepticism as the human set his bag down and started unpacking items. A wooden cooking spoon. A towel. A length of rope. 3 small balls. A plastic container filled with some kind of colored powder. And a stuffed toy animal that looked like a deformed earth creature. One of the Velthari warriors made that clicking laugh sound again. The human brings toys to combat training. Marcus picked up the stuffed animal and held it up. This is Mr. Floppy. My daughter is convinced he has magical powers. Who am I to argue with a 3-year-old? He tossed it aside and cracked his knuckles. All right, instructor. Let us show them how humans fight, when we stop being polite. I activated the level 8 simulation, and for the next 12 minutes, I watched Marcus Penn completely redefine everything I thought I knew about combat methodology. He used the cooking spoon to deflect a plasma bolt into an enemy shield generator, overloading it. He turned the towel into an impromptu weapon by soaking it in the colored powder, which apparently was some kind of earth irritant, and used it to blind a Crexon heavy unit. The rope became a tripwire, a garrote, and eventually a makeshift harness for swinging between platforms. The balls? Thrown with precision to trigger proximity sensors, and redirect automated defenses. He talked the entire time. Not to himself. To the enemies. Come on, big guy, you can do better than that. My toddler has better aim when she throws her breakfast. Oh wow, nice try with the blade attack, but you telegraphed that harder than a politician's promise. It was absurd. It was effective. It was the most human thing I had ever witnessed. When the simulation ended, Marcus was standing in the center of the bay, breathing hard, covered in holographic residue, holding Mr. Floppy in one hand and giving the observation deck a thumbs up with the other. The recruit class was silent. Then one of the Velthari started a clicking sound. Slowly, others joined. The Quellan scout added chirping. A Thorian rumbled. It took me a moment to realize what was happening. They were applauding. Marcus looked up at me, grinning. So, when do we start the real training? I closed my data pad and allowed myself the smallest hint of a smile. Humans, I decided, were going to make my job significantly more interesting. And that was probably terrifying.